Hello, hello. All right, so I went live earlier and I gave you guys a couple things that I was going to be talking about tonight. All right, and I'm excited about talking about it tonight because I think it's important to know, and it has to do with many of the changes that the United States Department of Education has put in place and has to also do with OSEP, the Office of Special Education Programs. Okay, so it's new. Hey, Christina. So it's new rules, regulations, policies put in place by the Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP. Okay, and also the U.S. Department of Education. All right, so there's no kind of hiccup in regards to what's going on with that and certain things that are in play in regards to anything virtual learning, anything concerning COVID and your child's education, special education, and understanding all the different elements that go into it. Okay, so as we watch people hop on, go ahead and share this. Okay, this is important. And it does have to do with anybody who has an IEP, okay? And different, there's not many, okay? There's only 3, but my goal is to help you understand it in full. And if you have any questions, of course, make sure to answer them appropriately and helping you digest how it's going to possibly affect you, how it's not. Thanks, Christina. And just really understanding it, because I know, as a parent who's been through it, understanding the law is super difficult sometimes, or trying to process how it's worded is confusing if it's not something you do every day, okay? And that doesn't make you inadequate in any way, because who reads law every day? So just know that I work with a lot of parents who will say, oh yeah, it says an idea XYZ, and how they're interpreting it is actually incorrect. And so I'll say, no, 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 this is what that meant. And they'll say, oh, that makes sense, So I just don't want you guys making that same mistake and then in an IEP meeting kind of like throwing that out there and them knowing possibly quite well that that's not accurate. And then you're kind of called out on that, if you will. They may not say anything, but they're going to know if they know the laws, which, again, a lot of school systems don't, but the ones that do. Okay, thanks, Carrie. Hey, Cynthia. Hi, Angie. How are you? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So if you are new to catching me live, post a 1 below. All right, this is not to like call you out. It's because we want to get to know you. If you haven't joined the group, go to the search bar and put Autism Mama Rocks IEP group and join the group. It's a great group of people. And post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. You guys know what to do. So if you're catching the replay, first through third time catching me live, post a 1 below. Just say hi. Tell us where you're from. All right. There's lots of states that I work with. I've now worked with 35. Remember, just like, I don't know what, a couple months ago it was like 31 or something. So it's now 35. My goal, for those of you who don't know, is to work in all 50 states by the end of 2021. So we will see how that works, but welcome if you are new, and hopefully you post a 1 below and where you are from. And don't forget to join the group. And anybody on here, make sure you click notifications so you know when I go live. Even if you can't join me, then at least you know and know to catch the replay. And the same thing goes for the group, okay? So make sure you share, because a lot of people are going to want to know the recent somewhat changes to some of the things that are going on today, okay? So you'll have to post for me. We'll talk about this tomorrow during the Q&A over on the group. See, that's another thing, guys, is I do a Q&A over on the group. I don't usually do it here on the page. So tomorrow is the Q&A over on the group, all right? So I'll be like getting out of an IEP meeting that's in California. So for me, it's a 3 to 6. For them, it's a 12 to 3. And so I will be getting out of an IEP meeting and then more than likely going live doing a Q&A like about 7 o'clock. Well, if I don't have another call with a client. So if I have that, then I'm not going to be going live tomorrow night. It'll be tomorrow early. So make sure you guys click notifications. I will post in advance here and say, hey, doing the Q&A early. So a Q&A, just for you guys to know before I hop into this, is literally I talk, but I'm only talking until you guys start answering or asking questions. And then it's literally question by question by question for an hour, hour and a half. Is typically I do an hour and a half. But we will just keep having questions go until that time is up and we sum it up and are done. Okay. So that's what we do over on the group. It's a lot of fun. We get to know each other. People help each other out, and the parents tell each other the answers, without me even answering sometimes. So, it's a fun time. So if you want to do that tomorrow, make sure you're part of the group to be able to do that. All right, so getting going. All right, so for those of you who don't know, OSEP is the Office of Special Education Programs, and the USDOE is the United States Department of Education. Each state obviously has a Department of Education, but the US Department of Education is the one in DC, okay, right outside of where I'm from. So this has to do with statutory and regulatory requirements that are included in this document are part of what's going on with COVID and some of the provisions and contingencies that are now in play. Okay. All right. Hi, Erin. Hi, Jan. Hello, Jessica and Karina. All right, Mississippi. I have not worked in that state yet, Angie. Belinda, hello, hello. And Betsy. All right. Can you guys tell I'm like really comfortable tonight? Like I've got my leg up and everything like that. You can tell like I'm so professional, right? I'm just kidding. I'm not in an IEP meeting. I'm just talking to you guys like a human being to human being, right? Mom to mom, if you will. Thanks, Erin. I appreciate it. Hopefully you didn't slip out too much, Cynthia. All right. So here we go. So IFSP meetings and service provisions. Okay, so we're going to talk about that first. All right, so just so you know, it's individuals of family service plan. It's an individual family service plan, okay? And basically what it's saying is that Part C of the idea, and I'm going to read this to you kind of verbatim. Part C of IDEA provides funds to the state lead agency, okay? A lot of times it's called LA, all right? Yeah, I work in every state, so you don't need me there because I'm everywhere. I do a lot of California cases. I'm right outside of DC, so, it's one of those things where I'm everywhere. So I advocate for parents in all states. So it's a little bit more tricky because I've had to learn many of the state policies, kind of getting off track for a second, but I've had to learn many of the state policies. But in actuality, a lot of the state policies are only able to be less than IDEA. So really, if you know IDEA, that's really what you need to know, okay? State policies are minor things, okay, of how long somebody may do something, who can submit what, just little technicalities. But as far as, the law in regards to special education, and again, I'm no attorney, I'm an advocate and have been for many, many, many years. But bottom line, it's IDEA. All right. So really it's just about what that is, what the provisions are there, and the schools adhering to it. Okay. So moving forward. All right. So services, this has to do with toddlers. We're moving on to other stuff, so be patient, mamas. Available to eligible infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families living within a state. Okay. And services are provided in conformity with the child's individual family service plan. So under it's 34.CFR blah, blah, blah law. Okay. If you need the laws, let me know if this pertains to you or your child. Okay. For each infant and toddler with a disability, the state's LA, again, that's state lead agency, okay, so your district, All right. It's called so many different names, but OSEP and the Department of DOE calls it usually, the state lead agency or the agency. I usually call it your district, the district, and that it is what it is. Okay, it's the same thing. All right. So, the state LA must ensure the development, review, and implementation of the family service plan developed by a multidisciplinary team. So if you have a little one, all right, that can go into, the beginning stages of, getting OT, PT, etc. Like I remember years ago, 15 years ago, Skylar first got, when she was 6 months old to 2 years, it was certain things. And then that led into, when she was 2, going into the school system. They're actually connected, except you obviously don't have an IEP at the 6 months to 2 years. But once she turned 2, she did. Okay? So they're somewhat relatable and related. All right? So the state LA must ensure that development and review and implementation, all right, developed by the team, which includes you. All right? Just like an IEP. All right? And it needs to be consistent with the definition of that term. All right. So what is that term? Just like in an IEP, it has to have those people there. All right. So who has to be there at your IEP? You, a supervisor in some way, district representative is what it said on IDEA. And then it is the special ed and gen ed teacher. Now, have I been in IEP meetings where that few of people are there? No. Tomorrow, I told the mom that I just got off the phone with, well, on the Zoom, she's got a football team coming tomorrow. It's kind of funny. Why? Because we made a huge complaint. Okay? This is the response to the complaint. All right? We went over this tonight, and we also went over the reevaluation because it's a reevaluation meeting. So we initially had an IEP meeting where it was rough, but it was okay. And then we got the evaluations that I requested. All right, the evaluations are now done. But in that time frame, I submitted a state complaint. All right, and this it is 34 pages, front and back. Well, that's how it printed. All right. Response from the state of Washington. All right. They're actually very detailed. I was quite impressed. And it's a special education. You can probably see corrective. They call it a citizen complaint corrective action plan. Let me make sure the child's name is not on this front part. No, it is not. Hold on. I wrote it down, so hang on. Let me exit out. Okay. So you can kind of see here. All right. So it's the corrective action plan. All right. So that was interesting. So anyway, because of everything that's gone on with that, and yes, many of the complaints were founded, and funny enough, the few that weren't, it was a multi complaint. I mean, I want to say we had 14, and the few that were not founded, even though they were not founded, they were corrected on them. So there was reason for us to complain. It just wasn't an idea thing. And a lot of times I know that, okay? But I throw it in there because I want the state to know. I want the state to be aware. Because guess what they did? And I'm getting off again. See, I'm telling you more information, but I'm going to finish this. But what's cool about it is they actually told the school, hey, even though this isn't a violation, you need to still provide the parent this. You still need to have an IEP in regards to this. All right. Cool thing too is part of their corrective action is they have to hold a training for all school staff for the district that this parent is in Spokane, Washington. All right. So the whole school district has to have training and then provide what training was given to the state. I thought that was cool. And then, of course, always an IEP meeting is always part of that. And then there was multiple other things that they have to do. So I was happy about that. But anyway, because a complaint was made and because I'm involved, a whole football team will be at the reevaluation tomorrow. And I'm not kidding. It's like 18 people. I mean, I'm like, geez, we need all of you guys there. Okay. Am I intimidated? No, but bring it on. Okay. So, and the thing is I just went over the evaluation with the parent guys, and it's, yeah, what the evaluation says and what they put into that draft IEP, like, really makes me want to punch a wall sometimes, because I'm like, you guys did this evaluation. You guys scored it like this. You guys see the deficit, but this is what you want to offer? You guys know I'm a cusser, so you know what? Are you out of your ever-loving freaking mind? I mean, how do you score like this and talk about all the deficits and check off the box that says impacts the child's education, but then give us a draft IEP that gives him 1 time a week in speech when you never advised us, the parent, that he had a huge deficit in speech with working memory, auditory memory, all these different things that lead down the track of speech, along with the way he's speaking and the way he's processing the information and the way he communicates and so on and so forth. Okay, it's not a nonverbal child, it's a verbal child, but people think that nonverbal. I mean, I even have a nonverbal child I'm working with, and they want to give I think it was 1 time a week speech. I settled with them today with a client, and I'm like, y'all are lost your mind, for real. You lost your mind, really. Okay? If a child is nonverbal or has speech issues, they need intensive speech therapy so they can improve. Okay, speech is kind of part of this daily world thing that we're in, guys. And so any educator that's out there, y'all should know if there's a speech deficit, it's kind of needed in today's society. You need to be able to understand language and speak. I don't care what language it is, but you have to be able to do that. Okay? So to give a child or offer a child the very bare minimal, because you're like, okay, they need speech. You even check off that they need speech, but then you want to give them 1 time a week when you say severe deficit? What is wrong with that? That's the thing that pisses me off. You know, it's not so much, that I think all school districts, just don't want to be out for the child's interest. What it is if you're out for the child's interest, prove to me that you are. Prove to me that you're out for the child's interest. If you're out for the child's interest, are you giving that child exactly what you would give your own child? Ask yourself that, because you know what? At the end of the day, let's just say you make all these mistakes. I've made mistakes in my life, and I've definitely paid for them. So if you're making mistakes and you've made all these mistakes with children, you've made bad decisions, and you're a school district, guess what? You can start over tomorrow. And it would be forgiven. Why? Because you're not continuing down the same road. People forgive that. Okay? You're not continuing down the same road of screwing up and harming children educationally. All right? And so all we as parents ask, if I can, guys, parents, can I speak for you for just a split second? All we want is for our children to get what's needed and appropriate for them. All right? Let's just put it in layman terms and real word language. We just want what's best for our damn kids. All right? We understand that you don't have to do what's best for our damn kids, but you know what? That's what we want. And, if we have to change our wording and say needed and appropriate, so be it, but it's still going to be what's best for our kids. And at the end of the day, you need to do that. You need to make sure our kids are learning and are being productive and can end up being productive members of society per idea. And so that's the important part. Another thing is, one thing I've learned, in life, is if I were still an educator, which I'm not teaching anymore, and I was teaching a child, and I would want to ask myself, am I teaching this child the way I would be teaching my own child? Am I doing everything I can for this child as I would my own? Okay? When I look at things like that, then I'm able to have a better concept of doing the right thing, And that's what a lot of school districts really need to do, and take the political bullshit out of the arena, okay? Because honestly, you're going to get funds for education. That's not going anywhere. But you're going to lose a lot of funds having parents take you to due process You're going to lose a lot of funds having parents violate you in multiple different ways. You know, due process can cost school systems up to, not always, up to $500,000. Okay, that's for big cases, guys. Yes, going up to the Supreme Court, they don't all do that, but it costs money. Their attorneys cost anywhere from $600 to $800 an hour. No joke. And if they can pay that, then they should be giving IEEs with no argument. They should be doing the things they need to do by hiring outside individuals and contracting and bringing in BCBAs and bringing in whoever it is that's needed for our kids. Because if a parent takes you to due process, you're going to be spending a hell of a lot more than that. So it's kind of like, you know, let's lose our brains here for just a second. Let's weigh that out. You know, which one makes more sense? Okay? It's like a lot of school systems will have to be fought to send a child to private school, or sometimes, you know, in one situation I'm dealing with right now, they want to kick a child out and send them to private school and pay for it, you know, but it's like, you'll do that. So do you realize, like, a school sending a child, typically, not always, to private schools, basically them saying, hey, we can't educate your child and provide them FAPE, so we're willing to pay for outside. Or they're willing to pay for outside because they don't want to deal with people like me. But, you know, whatever the decision is, you know, money should not be the topic, okay? IDEA says it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a contingency. It shouldn't be a contingency, and it's not allowed to be a contingency in an IEE. It's one of those things where there's just so many changes we have to make, you know? It's like, it's frustrating and it's ongoing. It's never going to be perfect, but hopefully all of us can gang up together and really, the biggest amount of power that you have is knowledge. And that is what's going to take you so far. All right. And so the more knowledge you have and the concept of everything, and never thinking you know it all. I sure don't. So always wanting to learn more. Always saying, you know what? I don't know that. I didn't know that, you know? Like, what was it? I was just on a call with a parent and I said, I wonder if this is allowed. I'll tell you. I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to find out. All right. Is on all the evaluations that I was looking at of the parents, none of them were signed and dated. All right. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, you know, if you go on the outside and you get an evaluation, it's always signed and dated. Sometimes it's like stamped and stuff. And so in my mind, I'm like, I wonder if that is a law, if that is required, you know, for the school system. Because evaluations, y'all, it's not given to you as a draft, okay? If an evaluation is done, it's done, and it is what it is. And so whether you agree or not, it is what it is. Okay, so that's when you can ask for an IEE. But if a school system does an evaluation, by golly, they should sign it and date it. And so I want to find out, if they don't, what does that do? Does that make that evaluation null and void? Is that a violation in some way, shape, or form? What is that? Because in my mind, how am I supposed to know who really did that evaluation and who wrote that evaluation up? Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to find out. I will find out for you. All right. Does anybody know that answer? I don't. So I'm serious. Like, I'm going to call the state and find out. And, like the United States Department of Education, I'm going to call them, and find out. And then I will respond to you guys. I'm also going to call FERPA to find out from them. And, I will let you know. Okay. All right. So moving on with the babies. All right. In the IFSP meetings, it says it must also meet the requirements in the CFR 303, 342 through 3406. Okay. Please find out. I need to know that. Yeah, I'm curious. The document addresses the individual family plan meeting notice and other requirements related to service provision. So again, this is babies and toddlers in school, and the fact that the state agency, your district and stuff, must make sure they're conforming with the individual service plan. Okay. And then, of course, once they go to school, then it's different. Then it becomes IEP and all that. Okay. So here's a question. How can parents, all right, state, LA, so the district, and their early intervention service providers hold initial, periodic, and annual meetings when the IS providers cannot conduct face-to-face meetings? Okay, virtual. All right, so the department recognizes that some states, due to operational constraints caused by COVID, all right, are currently unable to do face-to-face meetings, all right? And so the law requires that the initial annual meeting be held in a setting and time that is convenient for all. So that's in regards to any IEP, just so you know. One thing I don't typically do, unless I have some sort of relationship with the team, and I mean not relationship, but as in we've had some conversation. So typically I will say, here are 3 or 4 dates and times, or even if I give those 3 or 4 dates, I'll say you pick the time. All right, so then we're negotiating there. Here's 3 or 4 dates. You guys pick the time. Let's do this. All right, sometimes those dates have not worked out and they'll come back, and I like it when the states come back and say, we can't do these 3 dates. Can you give us a couple more dates? Or I'll have states and districts come back and say, hey, we can't do those dates, but we have this date, and this date. Is there one that works better for you? Now, that's a state that's working with me, you know? And I like that. That's really good, and it creates that initial, all right, we can possibly be working on this together, you know? So just remember that it has to be an agreed upon time, date, and place. The school cannot dictate to you when the meeting is and at what time. They can't, okay? Because you can easily say, I plan on being there at that meeting. There's no way that you're having the meeting without me. So let's pick a date and time and place, Zoom or Google Meets or whatever the heck it's called. I like Zoom better. And that works for us all. How about that? Okay, so don't ever let them just come at you with that. I've seen school districts come at parents and say, hey, this is when we're having the IEP, this is what time, this is where we're having it, and then the parent responds back, that doesn't work for me, I have to work, whatever, and then the school will say, oh, okay, we can have the IEP meeting without you. What? I don't think so. Have y'all lost your mind? I mean, the things that school districts will do to like get one over on you just to see if you don't know is crazy. Okay? So know these things. And if something is like, you know, makes you kind of like, whoa, what? Make sure you ask. Find someone who knows what they're doing and talking about and ask. Okay? Don't just fall and accept anything. All right? Remember, knowledge is power. All right? So, moving forward. So face-to-face, require the initial annual periodic meeting be held that's an agreed upon time, date, and place. Additionally, meetings need to be in the native language. All right, these are things that you may already know, but there's things that you may not know, so hear me out here. And these are the new rules, so repetitive or not, this is what's in play. During the time of the pandemic, when in-person meetings are not feasible or practicable, the department is extending the flexibility for periodic reviews that is allowed in, you know, just online and other means, okay? Such as video, conference calls. Phone is allowed, but I never, ever recommend that. Not ever, all right? And if you do, and they say that's all we can do, you better record every last minute of it and let them know in advance and get Rev Call Recorder. All right, that's what the app looks like. Can you see it? And so there's Rev Recorder and then there's Rev Call Recorder. All right. Please make sure you record that. And again, I do not recommend you do that. You just do a phone call. I would not ever recommend that. Just as a mom, you know, just don't do that. It's just not effective or productive, and a lot of times we forget that stuff. Many of us, if you're anything like me at all, you know, I'm I'm very personable. I want to see your face. I want to see your body language, seeing a team. And I do not allow the non-picture. If there's not, I make note of it and it's a problem. And I will say a lot of times in advance, if you don't plan on showing your picture, don't show up. Don't come. Just leave it alone. Because I like to see their face. I like to see their body language. It speaks volumes more than something that they could possibly say. So that's important to me. Another thing is the local providers need to conduct initial annual meetings through alternate means in regards to any type of other meeting that you need to have other than just the IEP, initial IEP, reevaluation IEP. A lot of people don't think, oh, a reevaluation meeting is an IEP. Any time you meet with the team, it's an IEP meeting. Now, it can be dissected. It's an IEP meeting about reevaluations. It's an IEP meeting about parental concerns. It's an IEP meeting about just the annual. It's whatever it is, it's still an IEP. So never let them change that verbiage for you where you're kind of questioning what it is. I had a school system recently say, oh, that wasn't an IEP meeting. I said, oh, was the whole team there? Yes. Then it was an IEP meeting. Okay, it wasn't a district supervisor and myself chit-chatting like I talked to an attorney today on the phone in Chicago area. No, it wasn't like that. All right, that's just hey, let's talk before we have an IEP meeting next Monday so that we can squash some of the problems. You talk to your parents. I'm going to go talk to the district and my clients, and then we're going to come back together and we're going to talk before the IEP meeting and see if she and I can come together so that at the meeting there's not a lot of hostility. So, it's one of those things where you have to focus on that. All right. So the next thing, a 45-day timeline. So you guys are used to me saying, oh, what's a 60 to 65-day timeline? What's that for? Anybody know? What's the 60 to 65-day timeline? Go ahead. First person who posts, I will give you a $25 Amazon gift card. What is the 60 to 65-day timeline? I will personally send you a Amazon gift card if you know that answer. I want you guys to know that answer. Okay, so post. All right, so the 45-day timeline, all right, that has to do with conducting initial meetings, okay? So the specific circumstance, all right, an idea, it says, and that's part C, all right, the 45-day timeline is required under 310, 342, 345, they all start with 303. The 45-day timeline applies to any screening offered by the state, all right? And the initial evaluation, the child or family assessment, okay? And the initial meeting, okay? So the two exceptions for the 45 days, all right, is the child or parent is unavailable to complete the required screenings, that need to be done for the initial evaluation, assessments, etc. And or due to family circumstances that are documented. So it could be, a medical issue or something like that. Okay. The second reason is the parent has not provided consent for the screening. So meaning they have not signed for the evaluations to then take place. All right. So the 45-day timeline has to do with initial evaluations. The school or yourselves had said, hey, please evaluate my child for special education. And then you have a meeting, you sign the consent for, the evaluations to start taking place for the initial to qualify, to see if they are qualified for special education, okay? So I see people posted. So Cynthia, I will message you and send you a gift card. So like Cynthia and Jessica and others have said, is the 60 to 65-day timeline. Okay, typically it's 60 days in most states, but in my state, God forbid, it's 65 days. I think we're one of the few states. Most are 60, and that is for a reevaluation. So if you ask for a reevaluation after that initial, which is the 45 days, so the initial evaluation to see if your child qualifies at all for special education is 45 days. From you signing the consent, not you sending an email requesting. Okay? Don't get that confused. The day it starts is the day you sign the consent. Same thing with a reevaluation. The day you sign the consent is when that 60 or 65 days, you'll have to find out with your state, starts. Okay? I always request for an evaluation. I state exactly what I want. All right? I'm very, very, very clear on it. All right? The evaluations, I like to make sure that my kiddos have, okay, are, and I've gone over this several times, the psychoeducational that goes through the cognitive ability, and I know the names, but I'm not going to name them all right now, that I want it to go through cognitive ability, the IQ, visual memory, executive functioning, attention. I want to make sure the occupational therapy is done, and it be very detailed as to what they wanted to evaluate. Okay, fine motor, gross motor. It's called graphomotor is another one. Speech, I want that to be comprehensive speech and language. I want that to be assessments of spoken and written language. I want phonemic awareness, phonological working memory. I want phonological retrieval. I want social communication. I want expressive and receptive and pragmatic language. Okay, and I also want auditory processing, which is specific to an audiologist. That's who would do that one. Another one that speech would do has to do with reading, which is the C-top 2 and the clef, the self. I also want FBAs done. I want the BASC done. I want, assistive technology done. I want the autism test done, or any other test that would specify certain things. I want, like, the auditory processing that I just spoke about. That's a big one, okay? Because if your child has issues, okay, say you had an evaluation, and I just ran into this issue, and your child did not have any type of auditory processing evaluation. Mind you, an auditory processing evaluation should be done by an audiologist. So school systems usually have to contract out because they don't have audiologists on hand. All right, those are doctors. And so you want to have an audiologist do your child's auditory processing. If your child has had an evaluation, okay, and say they have working memory issues, okay, and any type of memory retrieval type issue in regards to holding things there in the brain, comprehension, visual perception, processing, what else? Pragmatic language, what else? Visual memory, executive functioning, those types of things, even attention issues, then auditory processing is a key evaluation to have. Not always the first thing to do, but especially if an evaluation comes up and it shows that there's all those, like, working memory is a big one for me. I don't think people realize how serious working memory is. I recently read in detail a peer review. It was, 486 pages or something. Peer review, lots of people, coming together, experts, doctors, etc., and did this whole experiment with people and children on working memory and how that affects us in our lives, even us adults. Okay, but it was specific to children, and it was specific to how it affects children in the educational system. Okay, so that's what this peer review was about. All right, and so I'm just talking to you about this really quick before I move on, because we're almost done anyway. Because working memory is everything pertaining, and it goes even more detail, but it's everything pertaining to what's going on as your mind is moving and doing something. Okay? Just think about working. When you're working, you're busy. So when a child is busy doing schoolwork, doing, whatever it is, that they're having trouble either retaining that information. I even gave a parent an example of, short-term memory, for example, has a lot to do with working memory too, because it's basically putting what they're doing and what it is they need to hold on to in like a box, all right? And that box opens, just think about it, it opens within 5 minutes. So what is held in that box and then kind of cemented into their brain before it opens again and it's gone? Okay, so what is going to stick before that box opens that only will last 5 minutes? All right, so I'm a visual person, so if that helps. All right, think of it like, okay, you receive information. So if you have a child that has trouble receiving information, then they put it in this box, so then memory has to start, right? You have to put it in the box to sit there, and then in 5 minutes that box is going to open. What is it that child is going to retain while that box is closed for 5 minutes before it opens? Okay? And then that is what helps and kind of gives them the longevity of memory. All right? And what they're going to retain. All right? Whatever it was that stuck. Because a lot of children who have issues, once that box opens in 5 minutes, I'm just giving you an example, okay? But once that box opens in 5 minutes, it's gone. All right? So then what happens? What they just learned was non-existent. All right? And that's a problem that we're having a lot. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. And then the deficit, the issue, the why behind what is happening is not being resolved. All right? So I have a expert saying, hey, this is the issue. This is what I'm seeing. And then saying, but I don't think he needs this service because, I think it would take away from his classroom learning. And I think that it would take away from, him receiving LRE. I was like, does that service provider even know what the hell he's talking about? I mean, that didn't even make sense. He even mentioned fate to the parent. I mean, you could really tell he didn't make any sense or even know what he was talking about. He was talking out of his butt. And I can't wait to tell him this tomorrow. I'm like really excited. I get really pumped up about this kind of thing because there's nothing better than setting someone straight so they never make that mistake again. All right? In the real world, would I do that? No. Am I really going to be pressed on if I need to set somebody straight in the real world? No. But am I going to be pressed to set somebody straight in the educational world so that they do what's right and what's appropriate and what's needed for our kids and don't make stupid mistakes anymore? Oh yeah. I'm that person. I am that girl. I will let you know that kind of thing in a heartbeat. All right? So if you're not doing something right, I'm going to let you know. And I'm going to let you know in a way that you're never going to forget. And you're never going to not give a service or what's needed and appropriate to a child ever again because of your negligence in wanting to learn about what you do. Does that sound mean, guys? Am I mean? Tell me. Anybody out there that thinks I'm mean, tell me. But it is what it is. All right. So, next thing. OSEP, okay, has also, my guy has very low working memory. Yeah, it's a big deal, believe it or not. It sounds like when you say working memory, I don't know about you, but when you just hear that, it doesn't really sound like a big deal. You're like, oh, working memory, okay. But you don't really, I mean, this is just me, but when I first heard this word years ago, I was like, oh, okay. Like I didn't think anything of it, to be quite honest. And I just, okay. I didn't think about, oh, well, what kind of deficit is that? How does that impact the child? What is it going to, you got to understand working memory affects so many other areas. Reading, speech, the retaining of information at all, which affects everything about education. Everything. I don't think you're mean. I think you're honest. Thanks. I appreciate that, Chantel. But it's everything. You have to have memory and working memory to be able to function in the educational system and to make progress. All right. If you don't have visual memory, working memory, so on and so forth, even though those may not sound to you like right away, okay, something serious, as if, like when a parent hears, okay, your child has speech issues, there's a speech impediment, your child's nonverbal, your child has autism, all those types of things, like get us, right, as parents. But if you heard, oh yeah, your child's having trouble with working memory, it doesn't click, or at least it didn't for me. It doesn't click like it would your child has autism. You know what I'm saying? Or your child is on a second grade level in reading when they're in eighth grade. Or your child is on a third grade level in math and they're in eighth grade. That stuff. Oh, whoa. Where, oh my gosh, I must sneeze. Okay, I'm good. Where like working memory or visual memory, it's like, okay, that's a big deal, but like we don't process it that way when we first hear it. Why? Because many of us don't exactly comprehend what that means. All right. Or how it's going to affect all areas of education, even all type of academic areas. Okay. Not just in the educational setting, like just in general, behavior wise, etc. It can also cause behaviors because of frustration and other things that come about because of how it impacts academics. Okay? So everything that is any type of deficit in some way, shape, or form, remember, is almost like a domino effect. All right? If they have one thing, typically it's going to affect all this other stuff and everything's going to start rolling around. I used to love playing dominoes. So like, it's just roll around and they're all down. So what happens? Everything's down now. What are we going to do to bring it back up? And so my thought process is, what are we going to do to change this? What are we going to do to help the child and increase that they have the visual memory, the working memory, all these types of things that are important, along with figuring out where the auditory processing is. Okay, auditory processing, visual memory, receptive language, that's how it's brought in. Not so much, speaking out, but that reception, okay, which puts it in the brain. So all of those things stem from one another. They associate. They're not exact, they're not the same, but they're linked. All right. It's like, those links that we would put together as kids, those circles, and you'd link more, or even those paper things that people would create, those long things, the streamers with the paper. Everything is linked when it comes to that type of stuff. Auditory, visual, how things are taken in and received. Okay. Just remember that type of deficit affects everything. Okay. Others affect everything too, but we're just talking about that. All right, so OSIP has also applied documented exceptional family circumstances when clear, circumstances outside the provider's control, such as a hurricane, do not prevent the underlying activity to occur, and thus the child and family are unavailable as a particular matter. Now, remember, we were talking about the 45-day timeline and there's two, it's just an extended one, when the 45 days can be extended. All right. And this has to do with the school system. So it was talking about the mom and parents at first for the, you're unavailable and you need to change the date. Then the next one is, maybe you have a doctor's appointment or there's something going on. And then also that the school, can't control it. A hurricane happened, COVID happened, whatever. Okay. So that's important to remember. And in those limited circumstances, they must document and complete the evaluations as soon as things can then start back. All right. And at least two of the activities in the 45-day timeline, the evaluation of the child being eligible, so to speak. All right. The inability to conduct an in-person observation may be critical to ensuring appropriate evaluation. So what's that saying? All right, is that, and this is happening a lot, especially in California. All right, they're not in school. Many places right now are not in school. So if, and even now I'm requesting evaluations for many of my clients, and I know very well that none of these kids can have an evaluation virtually. Not going to be productive at all. There's no point in doing one virtually. So you have to understand that even though evaluations are requested, it's going to be very clear once school starts back. Or just remember this, it doesn't have to start back where everybody's in school. It can be the school just opens again, where even the principal or secretaries are back to working with their masks on, or, one or two kids are let in for whatever reason, football's back in, because we all know that they're the first ones put in back in school. Don't get me started with that. I love football and all, but, this is education we're talking about here, not sports. And then, so just know that it's not when they open as in everybody's in school. So the minute the school opens, where you can walk in the door and, they have a child here or there for whatever reason, then they can do evaluations. Okay? So that's when that can start. All right. And I know that in putting in evaluations now, but then at least consents are signed and it's just basically stated in a PWN that this is when they'll begin. All right. So the next thing is service provisions. So what must a state providers do if they cannot provide IDEA Part C services in accordance with IFSP due to the pandemic? Again, Individual Family Service Plan. Okay. So in many cases, the public health response related to COVID, all right, may prevent providers from delivering specific early intervention services, etc. For example, Part C services, all right, are to be provided in the child's natural environment, including the child's home, community setting, etc. All right, when the lead agency or provider cannot provide IDEA Part C services in accordance with the law, basically, all right, then the lead agency or provider needs to notify the parent as soon as possible. That's number one. And they must provide a prior written notice. Okay? Yes. And so it's very important to understand that you have to still be notified no matter what in writing, and then things continue to take place afterward. All right? So, with that said, if feasible and consistent with privacy interests, such as though telecommunications, phone call, video, etc., consultative services can be given with the parent. All right. So this is service provisions in regards to services. All right. So Part C of IDEA in accordance to services. And then now we're moving on to IDEA and in regards to your child if you have a grade school child. I know a lot of people have younger kids as well. They've asked, well, what is this? My child's 2, my child's 3, my child's 4. The same provisions pretty much are the same for all children. All right. They don't have to just be in the school system, kindergarten above. All right. So providers must document, and it has to be a team decision as to what services cannot be provided and why. And it cannot be, due to COVID. It has to be in regard to someone can't be there, whatever the situation is, and there has to be some sort of provision and reasoning. It can't just be, we can't do speech today, we can't do speech for the next 3 weeks. And it definitely can't be where the school system and school systems right now are sending out, or have sent out, I guess I should say, letters to parents. I have one. I'm going to have to look for it, but it's a letter where it's called like the COVID plan, or virtual learning plan, or schools are calling it different things. And they're basically saying, hey, we're changing up everything for virtual learning, but everything would go back to the same once your child returns to school. No, it's important to understand, parents, that They don't get to do that and make the rules, okay? The rules are the rules, and they have to do contingency plan. Is that what they're calling? Yeah. So yes, and yes, Cynthia, part C, yes. So that was part of the update. Is part C is parents were freaking out that well all these provisions are in place for all the other kids, but kids that are younger in preschool and so forth, you know they were kind of left out, and so the plans have gone into place in regards to them as well. So parents who have kids that, I've actually gotten a lot of calls on this, and they've said, oh my gosh, what about my 3-year-old? My child's 3, my child's just starting preschool. What's going on with this, and what am I going to do? So it's important to just know that. And anyway, in regards to the contingency plans, virtual learning plans that schools are putting out, oh, you should see this one that I have. I'll print it out and talk to you guys about it. But it's interesting because they literally say, once we return back to school, we'll be able to provide FAPE to your child. Really? Did you guys really just say that? Like, they literally just said, hey, we're not providing your child FAPE, but hey, when they return back to school, we promise to do that then. I mean, really? Amendment purpose. What do you mean? He can't touch the screen and learn, yeah. Virtual learning is very difficult for everybody, But I will say I have heard some good stories too, Some kids are doing better for the simple fact that it's quieter at home. But, I would say 95% is not doing well. I don't think I've heard some hurrah stories, but I've heard some great stories in regards to, hey, it's quieter, my child's doing better, as far as behavior. My child's doing better because of XYZ. But, as far as academically, it's still a struggle. I've never heard so far. If you're one, please tell us your success story. But I have not heard a situation as of yet where a child is significantly improving and progressing. I do feel bad for school systems and I would say more staff who are trying and doing their best, specifically teachers and service providers, because many are trying and doing their best, and it's not working, and they know that. And it's not so much them per se, it's just not working. And so even though I advocate, and even though I'm like, the school system this and the school system that does not take away from the fact that many teachers and service providers are doing the very best they can. And unfortunately, it's not working. That doesn't mean they're not doing what they should be doing. It means it's not working. So at the end of the day, what do we got to look at? It's not working. My child's not receiving FAPE, whatever the situation is, right? So we have on one hand, like I was talking to you guys about a while ago, a couple days ago, last week, whenever it was, where I said, it sucks because, we have educators that are doing their job and are doing what they need to be doing, but it's not working for our children. So it does make everything look bad, so keep that in mind too, that it isn't always, it's not a your fault thing a lot of times, sometimes right now, sometimes it is, believe me, I know, but sometimes it's not, in many situations it's not, and it's just not working. And, that's at the end of the day what we have to look at, is it's not working at all. And parents are frustrated. You guys are frustrated. So I just wanted to read that to you and let you know that it has a lot to do with Part C of IDEA, which is the little ones. But the same thing goes hand in hand for the big ones. Okay? That hasn't changed, like I've discussed with you guys many times. But just know that it has to do with the little ones too. All right. Do you guys have any last minute questions before I hop off here? I will be going live tomorrow, Q&A tomorrow on the group. All right, Cynthia, message me your address, and I will get you out that gift card. And yeah, that's it. Remember, I'm having Black Friday deals, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it on the group. All right. I really like to incentivize my group. All right. Because that is my people's. All right. I know this is the page. Various people can watch this. But you know what? If you want to be part of the group, join the group. It's just put in the search bar, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. I don't think you will be disappointed if your child is in special education. My son's behaviors are getting worse doing virtual. There's not engagement. Yeah. A lot of kids are. I have a parent who it was a good thing. We were summing up a mediation today, but I was crying because she was crying because she had been hit. I want to say she said, and this sounds extensive, but it is very much true. I want to say she said 72 times that whole morning. The call was at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and of course school starts at 8. And it was hard to see that mom, crying and upset and saying, like, please help me, this isn't working. And then of course I saw her crying, so of course I start crying, and just totally feel for her, and cannot understand how difficult that must be. And I know she's not the only one dealing with that. But it was emotional because you could see, in her face and her eyes and her emotions of how torn up she was, and how this was hurting her. And, not just physically, obviously, but emotionally. And this is speaking to all of you, this is an emotional experience and situation for all of us, not just our kids. And so it's definitely a problem. Definitely a problem. So have a good night. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow. It will be a Q&A. So tell me tomorrow, on the Q&A over on the group, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. So make sure you join. I do have lots of people I have to accept today. All right. I have, let's see. Let me see. All right. It says, guys, hold on. And then I'm going to tell you a funny story. So hang on. Yeah. See, I still have 60 people to accept. So go ahead and join now because I got people to accept anyway. All right. So, okay, you want to hear the funny story? So I was talking to my older daughter today, as many of you guys know. I have a soon-to-be 25, soon-to-be 21, and then Skylar this coming summer. All of them are summer. Will be 16. And so, anyway, my older daughter says, hey mom, how does Skylar have, because Skylar is 15, but she is more on a, I would say 10-year-old level, 9-year-old level, 9, 10, something like that, as far as emotionally and so forth. So anyway, her older sister, who's a teacher, as many of you know, said, Mom, Skylar's sending me all the things that she wants for Christmas from Amazon. And I was thinking, I mean, the first thing that came to my head, guys, was, oh shit. Because we share, I guess, the stuff on our phones. I don't know how it works. I'm like stupid with that stuff. But like on our phones, like I was able to figure out on our, like we have iPhones. I was able to figure out how to not have her have my pictures. I was able to figure that out. But I can't figure out how she cannot go to the app store and download the app. So if any of you guys know this stuff, please PM me, because I'm like so stupid with this. I don't know how, where she knows how to go to the app store. She is genius on knowing how to go to the app store, and she knows how to download this stuff. Okay. And so she downloads Amazon. She has, she's at Linda Mood Ballad. She has, oh my God, that I cannot say anything negative about that place at all. Like, that child has leaps and bounds. All right. Long story short, she downloaded the damn app store. She knows how to type in what she wants. She doesn't really like, she knows. I don't know how to do it. I tried. I don't even know what to do in parental controls. I don't even know how to do it on my TV. So I'm like a technology. Someone needs to step by step. Like, I'm pretty good with technology as far as the computer, but you know, some stuff, Carrie, I'm like really dumb at. All right, talk to me about an IEP. I'm good. I have got your back there. You want to talk to me about certain technology or like the freaking TVs and all the technicalities of how they are these days? I would rather hire someone to come do it than frustrate myself like that. So you come help me, Carrie, or give me the step by step. I need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So anyway, she's sending her sister pictures. So in my mind, the reason I said the first thing that came to my mind was, oh shit, is because all she has to do is push purchase, and then she's like, charge my card. So now I'm freaking out. I have my son's iPhone on lockdown, but I'm okay with her, Christina. Like, I'm okay with her being on YouTube. Like, she has not, to the best of my knowledge, but I check it a lot. She hasn't looked at things that are inappropriate, or like she looks up, you know, puppies and horses and, you know, different things like that. But she hasn't looked up anything, you know, that she shouldn't. For a period of time, she was into scary movies, so she looked up clowns, you know. So she's like, she's cool. Okay, cool. Because she is at the age where I'm okay with her, you know, having some freedom. But obviously I have to watch it. But yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, I've got to block her from my Amazon, because that I would freak out, because she has, I think my daughter, here, I'll even read it to you. My daughter said, she has sent her 20 pictures. Look. See how she said 20 pictures? Oh yeah, she sent me like 20. Links to toys she wants. And that she wants to buy them. I'm like, oh my God. If she charges my credit card, you can put your Amazon on a gift card instead of it charging your credit card. What does that mean? How do you do that? How would I purchase something on a gift card? Yeah, I'm like so stupid with this. Just PM me, Christina. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny, guys. So these kids are smart in many different ways. So I try to celebrate those things too. Because, you know, my daughter, you know, I've had to look at, you know, I was talking to a parent about this today. We were talking about, and this is a conversation we will have, load the gift card. Oh, you mean give her the gift card or me? Oh, wow. I did have to turn Alexa off, because she did learn that. She learned that she could say, Alexa, order this, and it ordered. Look, Alexa's turning on now. She knew how to do that.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
See? She knew how to look up on Alexa, like how to say, hey, Alexa, order XYZ on Amazon. And I got this huge dollhouse sent to my house. Oh my God. Yeah, I bet we could tell like stories, guys. I bet we could tell stories. Oh my gosh. But here's a topic I'm going to talk about soon because this was an interesting one, and I think would be an interesting one. Is look, I just have like a brain fart. It's late here, guys. 10:19. Load the gift card and keep it on your account, but just keep it as your form of payment. Oh, I got you. I got you. Load a gift card. You have to help me. I don't know what you're saying, really. Like, I have an idea, but I'm sort of not getting it totally. So, yeah. Okay, guys. So, we're going to talk. Oh, this is what it was. So, I was talking to a parent about this today. I've already had to make this decision personally for Skylar, and we will be talking about this soon. I think it's a really good topic, and it has to do with what plan your child is on. All right? Meaning, is your child on the diploma track? Or I guess I should say track. Are they on? Okay, yes, do that. Is your child on the diploma track? Are they on the alternative assessment track? Or are they on the zero track? Guess which one I chose and why? All right, so that'll be a topic we're going to talk about. Maybe I'll do that on Wednesday since I can't talk Thursday on Thanksgiving. I'll hop on and say Happy Thanksgiving, but I'll do Thursday's call on Wednesday, and so tomorrow I'll do the Q&A over on the group, and then Wednesday here, that's what we'll talk about is, what track is your child on, how you can determine what track is best, and the fact that whatever track that your child is on is 500% up to you and you alone. And then I'll talk to you about why the school systems don't want you on certain tracks. Okay? And guess which one it is. Is it on the diploma track? Is it on the alternative then Friday for prize? Yes, Friday's prize day. I'm giving away quite a bit of stuff, y'all. Quite a bit. Okay? Like over $100. A lot. Okay? So, which one do they not want you on? The diploma track, the alternative assessment track, or the zero track? And which one, dependent on your child, is best? So that's what we will talk about on Wednesday. All right? So Christina and Kim, really quick, are you saying the school doesn't want them on the diploma track, or they don't want them on the alternative track? Is that what you're saying? Which one are you saying? Like, how are you leading? So think about that, all right? And join me Wednesday with that, tomorrow's Q&A. So what track is your child on? Alternative, diploma, or zero? And here's the next question. Which track does the school not want you on? Okay, so that's question 2. And why don't they want you on that track? Okay. And, okay, why should you choose certain tracks and how it's going to benefit your child being on certain tracks? Skylar's on a zero track. So we'll talk about that. All right. She is on the zero track. All right. Zero. All right. And I think I make pretty good educational decisions for my child. I have to say. All right. So that's what we're going to talk about Wednesday. Okay? So, and I'm going to talk to you about whose child should be on the diploma track, whose child should be on the alternative track and whose child should be on the diploma track or the zero track. All right. And I'll tell you something. One of those tracks, your child more than likely should never be on. So think about that. Zero, alternative, diploma. Which one do you think more than likely, not in all situations, I never can say always or never, okay? Because there's always an exception to the rule. But what track more than likely is inappropriate for most children that are on that track? Okay? And then one is just, not a bad one, but it doesn't make sense most of the time. All right, so tune in Wednesday. All right, it's actually a really good conversation, believe it or not. I think you will be, pleasantly surprised. I think it will change the way you think about things. I am very much for this, that mindset is everything. All right. Tonight, I had to say to a mom, and I say this to many moms, I apologize for saying this to you, but you need to put your emotions aside and digest that this is what it is, and you are actually setting up your child for failure by doing this. Yes, I've said that to a mom tonight, and I've said it before many times. Is it hard for them to digest for a second? But then once they kind of get over that, which is what I want them to do, because it's fine, it's going to be okay. And then once they get over that hump, and I've said, okay, you're setting them up for failure, which is a hard thing for a parent to digest, but it's the truth. So once that's kind of put behind us, then I'm able to say, but listen to this. All right. And that has to do with the tracks. All right. I'm thinking they don't want zero track to cause the until 21 years old is guaranteed. Okay, more money. Okay. So we'll talk about everything on Wednesday. What have you heard before, Christina? What have you heard before? To wake up and what you're doing is setting up your child for failure. It happens to the best of us. Many of us think we're doing the right thing, and it's actually setting them up for failure. Or we think about, well, what about this? And we're thinking 10 years down the road, when I'm like, no, you got to think about right now. And, if things change, then we think about 10 years down the road. That's right. Take your emotions out of the situation. That's right. All right. So we will talk about that on Wednesday. Tomorrow is the Q&A. I will see you guys tomorrow over on the group. Autism on Rocks IEP group. I will see you over there. Post any questions below. Don't forget, if you're joining and catching the replay, post a 1 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Post a 2 below if you're, no. See, I always say that wrong at the end. Oh my God. Okay, let me say it again. Okay, if you're catching the replay, all right, I really am, I got it together. Okay, I'm really not tired. It's not 10:30 at night here. All right, so if you're catching the replay, post a 1 below if you're new. First through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay? Good night, Kristen. Good night, Erin. All right. Yes, Kim, 2. All right. So 1 below if you are new. First through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay? It's 10:30 here, guys. Give me a break. All right. Welcome to all the new people and all you oldies. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow night over on the group for the Q&A. I'll talk to you soon.